Ella fiddled with the strap of her backpack, the weight of her textbooks feeling lighter than the weight in her stomach. Liam, just seeing him across the crowded hallway sent a wave of nervous energy through her. He was everything she wasn't. Effortlessly cool, effortlessly popular, and effortlessly out of her reach. She had been trying to engineer a casual encounter with Liam for weeks. She'd strategically positioned herself near his locker after third period, hoping to accidentally drop a textbook and elicit a chivalrous response. She'd even started frequenting the library during his usual study hours, pretending to be engrossed in dense historical texts, while covertly observing him from behind the stacks. Each attempt ended in predictable failure. He was either too engrossed in conversation with his friends, or simply oblivious to her presence. One afternoon, she'd even attempted to ask him for help with a particularly tricky math problem. She'd rehearsed the scenario in her head 100 times. She'd approach him with a shy smile, feign confusion, and he'd patiently explain the solution, his dazzling smile lighting up her world. But when she actually approached him, the words caught in her throat, her palms grew clammy, and she ended up muttering something incoherent before fleeing in embarrassment. Each failed attempt chipped away at her confidence, reinforcing the narrative she'd already constructed in her head. Liam was simply too good for her. He probably didn't even know she existed. Then there was Maya, her best friend since kindergarten. Maya was the grounding force in Ella's life, the one person who always saw her for who she truly was, quirks and all. They shared everything, secrets, dreams, and an unwavering loyalty that had weathered countless middle school dramas. Lately, however, Ella found herself pulling away from Maya, caught up in her hopeless pursuit of Liam and the attention of other girls. She was too preoccupied with her own insecurities and desires to truly listen to Maya's concerns about her upcoming art show or her struggles with her demanding parents. Ella justified it to herself that Maya was the only friend she had, and it was going to remain that way, and she was just focusing on her future relationships to expand her social circle. She knew she was being a terrible friend, but she couldn't seem to stop herself. One rainy Saturday, rummaging through a box of her eccentric grandmother's belongings, Ella stumbled upon a peculiar jar. It was small, made of dark, almost opaque glass, and sealed with a strange waxy substance. A faded label, barely legible, hinted at pheromone elixir. Use with caution. Intrigued and slightly apprehensive, Ella cautiously opened the jar. The contents resembled a shimmering opalescent lotion, emitting a faint sweet fragrance that tickled her senses. It looked nothing like the lotions she knew. It seemed like a potion from a fantasy movie. That night, Ella hesitated. Her mind raced with uncertainty and doubt. Should she really be using this mysterious lotion she found in her grandma's old belongings? What if it contained harmful ingredients or had unforeseen side effects? Her grandmother was an odd woman. She was eccentric and somewhat secretive. She was the kind of person who might dabble in things that most people wouldn't dare touch. Ella remembered stories her mother had told her about her grandmother's strange hobbies, such as fortune-telling, herbal remedies, and even rumors of dabbling in witchcraft. Ella thought about Liam, his smile, his laugh, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he was amused. She recalled her failed attempts to capture his attention, the awkward encounters and embarrassing stumbles. The desire to finally break through that barrier, to be noticed, to be liked, overwhelmed her rational concerns. She remembered the warning on the label, "Use with caution." She knew that there was a potential downside to using the lotion, a risk that she might regret it later. But she couldn't resist the temptation. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and rubbed a small amount of the lotion onto her wrists and neck. Immediately, a strange warmth spread through her veins, a tingling sensation that made her skin prickle. The sweet fragrance intensified, filling the room with an intoxicating aroma. Then she read the rest of the label, the part that had been hidden beneath the waxy seal. Warning: initial attraction will be heightened. Cessation of use will result in an equivalent decrease in perceived attraction. Ella's heart sank. There was a catch, a significant one. The lotion wasn't just a magic bullet, it was a double-edged sword. It would make her irresistible, but the effect was temporary. And when she stopped using it, the magic would fade, leaving her worse off than before. If people's initial impression of her was a 0, using the lotion would boost it to a 1, but stopping would plunge it to a -1. Doubt gnawed at her. Was it worth it? Was a fleeting moment of popularity and the potential for a relationship with Liam worth the risk of long-term negativity? She spent the rest of the night tossing and turning, wrestling with her conscience. The next morning, Ella walked into school, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. She had applied the lotion sparingly, hoping for a subtle effect. As she navigated the crowded hallways, she noticed something was different. People were smiling at her, holding doors open, offering compliments. Even students she barely knew were suddenly eager to strike up conversations. Then she saw him. Liam, leaning against his locker, surrounded by his usual entourage. He caught her eye and, to her astonishment, smiled. A genuine heart-stopping smile. He pushed off the locker and started walking towards her. "Hey Ella," he said, his voice surprisingly warm. "I was wondering if you were free this weekend. There's this new movie I wanted to see, and I was thinking maybe we could go together." Ella's heart leapt into her throat. This couldn't be happening. This was what she had been dreaming of for months. "Yeah," she managed to stammer. "I'd really like that." As they made plans for their date, Ella couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Was this real, or was it just the lotion working its magic? Their date was everything Ella had ever imagined. Liam was charming, funny, and genuinely interested in getting to know her. They laughed, shared stories, and discovered a surprising number of shared interests. By the end of the night, Ella was completely smitten. Over the next few weeks, Ella and Liam became inseparable. They spent their afternoons studying together in the library, their weekends exploring the city, and their evenings talking on the phone until the early hours of the morning. Ella felt like she was living in a dream. But the dream came with a price. Ella found herself increasingly distant from Maya. The constant attention from Liam and her newfound popularity consumed her time and energy. She missed their late-night talks, their shared jokes, and their unwavering support for each other. One afternoon, while navigating the cafeteria, she overheard a group of girls whispering about her. "She's such a fake," one of them said. "She's only dating Liam because she wants to be popular." Ella's heart sank. Were they right? Was she just using Liam to climb the social ladder? The thought made her feel sick. One day, Liam's best friend Noah approached her after school. "Hey Ella, can I talk to you for a sec?" Ella nodded, a nervous flutter in her stomach. Noah shuffled his feet. "Look, I'm really glad you and Liam are, a couple now. He's been happier than I've seen him in ages. He always liked you, Ella. He was just too nervous to say anything." The words hit Ella like a ton of bricks. He always liked her. That meant that first conversation, the date invitation, it wasn't the lotion, or at least it wasn't just the lotion. Relief washed over her, followed by a wave of guilt. She had doubted Liam, doubted their connection, and attributed it all to a potion. She had let her insecurities cloud her judgment. But there was another problem brewing. As her popularity soared, so did the resentment from other girls. They saw her as a threat, an interloper who had stolen Liam in the spotlight. Jealous glares followed her down the hallways, and snide comments echoed behind her back. Even worse, some of Liam's friends started acting distant, even hostile. They seemed to resent her presence in their group, subtly excluding her from their activities. One afternoon, she overheard them complaining about how Liam was whipped and how she had changed him. Ella realized that the lotion was creating a false reality, a facade built on superficial attraction and envy. It was isolating her from her true friends and alienating her from the people she cared about. The realization was a punch to the gut. She was miserable. She yearned for genuine connection, for the simple joy of being herself, without the weight of expectations and the fear of judgment. She started to feel guilty for distracting herself from her best friend Maya, especially because now she was going through problems with her family and struggling with her upcoming art show. Ella knew what she had to do. She had to stop using the lotion, but the thought terrified her. What if everything fell apart? What if Liam stopped liking her? What if her newfound popularity vanished? The fear of rejection was a powerful deterrent. She had tasted the sweetness of acceptance, the thrill of being desired, and the comfort of belonging. The thought of returning to her former invisible self was unbearable. Days turned into weeks, and Ella continued to use the lotion, trapped in a cycle of dependence and anxiety. She knew she was living a lie, but she couldn't find the courage to break free. Then one morning, disaster struck. Ella reached for the jar of lotion, only to find it missing. Panic seized her. She searched everywhere, her room, her backpack, her locker, but the lotion was nowhere to be found. As she walked into school that day, Ella braced herself for the inevitable. The magic was gone. The smiles faded, the compliments ceased, and the friendly greetings turned into indifferent nods. She felt like she was invisible again, even more so than before. Liam was distant, preoccupied. He barely made eye contact with her, and his conversations were short and perfunctory. The spark that had once ignited between them seemed to have vanished. Ella felt like her world was crumbling around her. She had lost Liam, her friends, and her self-respect. She was alone, adrift in a sea of indifference. Despair threatened to consume her. She wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear. She regretted ever using the lotion, ever succumbing to the temptation of superficiality. But deep down, a tiny spark of resilience flickered. She couldn't give up. She had to find a way to reclaim her life, to rebuild her relationships, and to rediscover her true self. Ella decided to start with Maya. She knew she had been a terrible friend, neglecting her needs and prioritizing her own selfish desires. She swallowed her pride and reached out to Maya, apologizing for her behavior and expressing her genuine remorse. To her surprise, Maya was forgiving. She admitted that she had missed their friendship and had been worried about Ella's sudden change in personality. They talked for hours, sharing their feelings and rebuilding their bond. Emboldened by Maya's forgiveness, Ella decided to confront Liam. She found him in the library, studying alone. She took a deep breath and approached him. "Liam," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "can we talk?" He looked up, his expression guarded. "About what?" Ella poured out her heart, confessing her insecurities, her reliance on the lotion, and her fear of losing him. She admitted that she had doubted their connection and had attributed his attraction to her to the potion's magic. Liam listened patiently, his expression softening as she spoke. When she finished, he reached out and took her hand. "Ella," he said, his voice gentle, "I've always liked you. Even before you started wearing that stuff, I was just too shy to say anything. And I know you've been acting differently lately, but I figured you were just going through something." He paused, then added, "But honestly, I miss the old Ella, the one who was funny, kind, and didn't care what other people thought." Ella's heart soared. He still liked her, not because of the lotion, but because of who she was deep down. From that day forward, Ella made a conscious effort to be her true self. She stopped worrying about popularity and focused on being kind, genuine, and compassionate. Slowly but surely, people began to see her for who she really was. They admired her honesty, her empathy, and her unwavering spirit. She earned their respect, not through artificial charm, but through genuine connection. Liam fell in love with her all over again, appreciating her for her authenticity and her inner strength. Their relationship deepened, built on a foundation of trust, honesty, and mutual respect. The lotion had been a temporary fix, a shortcut that ultimately led her astray. But in losing it, she had found something far more valuable, herself. She learned that the qualities that attracted people were her kindness, empathy, and genuine passion for the world around her. She focused on being the best version of herself, treating others with respect and compassion, and pursuing her interests with enthusiasm. And to her surprise, people started to notice. They admired her honesty, her dedication, and her unwavering spirit. She found that true connection and lasting relationships were built on authenticity, not artificial charm.